Tonight, a plumber found cash and checks behind a loose toilet in the wall at Joel Osteen's Texas megachurch. Lakewood Church won't confirm how much was discovered, but they did say recent repair work did uncover some missing money.
Dave Ramsey spent decades teaching people how to rebuild their financial lives after losing everything himself. Joel Osteen transformed a local church into one of the largest ministries in America. Both men became symbols of success, but their views on money and faith could not be more different. When Ramsey questioned the ideas behind Osteen's message, millions began asking the same question: where does true prosperity come from, and who should people believe? From millionaire to bankruptcy, the shocking collapse that created Dave Ramsey. Before Dave Ramsey became known as the man who taught millions to eliminate debt, he experienced the kind of financial collapse that could have ended his career before it even began. The story of his success did not start with wealth, but with losing almost everything he had built. Born on September 3, 1960, in Antioch, Tennessee, Ramsey grew up in a family that valued hard work, discipline, and financial responsibility. From a young age, he showed a strong entrepreneurial mindset. By the time he was only 12 years old, he was already finding ways to earn money, developing the habits that would later shape his approach to business and finance. After attending the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, where he studied finance and real estate, Ramsey entered the property market with ambitious goals. His understanding of real estate helped him build a successful career quickly, and by his mid-20s, he had created a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio. He appeared to have achieved the dream many people chase: financial freedom, success, and a wealthy lifestyle. But behind that success was a dangerous foundation. Ramsey had relied heavily on borrowed money to expand his investments. When the financial institution that held his loans changed ownership in the late 1980s, new lending rules forced him to repay millions of dollars far sooner than expected. Unable to meet the sudden demands, Ramsey faced financial ruin and eventually filed for bankruptcy. The experience completely changed the way he viewed money. Instead of walking away from finance, Ramsey studied what went wrong and began rebuilding his life with a different philosophy. He moved away from depending on debt and focused on budgeting, saving, and responsible financial decisions. Alongside his wife, Sharon, he transformed his painful experience into lessons that could help others avoid similar mistakes. In 1992, Ramsey released his first book, Financial Peace, introducing the principles that would later become the foundation of his career. He soon began sharing financial advice through a local radio program in Nashville, where his direct and practical style quickly attracted attention. That show eventually grew into The Dave Ramsey Show, reaching millions of listeners across the country. His message was simple but powerful: live within your means, pay off debt, build savings, and take control of your financial future. Through his famous Baby Steps system, books, seminars, and Financial Peace University, Ramsey became one of America's most influential voices in personal finance. However, his rise also came with criticism. Some questioned whether his strict approach worked for every financial situation. Yet for millions of supporters, his story proved one thing: sometimes the biggest lessons come from the moments when everything falls apart. And while Ramsey built an empire by teaching people about money, another influential figure was building a different kind of empire, one centered on faith, hope, and prosperity. How Joel Osteen inherited a church and built a worldwide empire. While Dave Ramsey built his reputation by teaching people how to recover from financial mistakes, Joel Osteen became famous for a very different message, one centered on hope, positivity, and the belief that people could achieve a better future through faith. Born into a deeply religious family, Joel Osteen grew up surrounded by ministry. His father, John Osteen, founded Lakewood Church in 1959 in Houston, Texas, turning it into a growing congregation with a strong television presence. However, Unlike many future pastors who begin preaching at a young age, Joel did not initially see himself standing behind a pulpit. Instead, he was drawn to media. After attending Oral Roberts University, Osteen returned to Houston and began working behind the scenes at Lakewood Church. For nearly 2 decades, he served as a television producer, helping broadcast his father's sermons to audiences beyond the local congregation. While others saw the preacher on stage, Joel focused on the cameras, production, and communication strategies that helped expand the church's reach. Then, in 1999, everything changed. After Joel Osteen passed away from a heart attack, Lakewood Church suddenly needed a new leader. Despite having little formal theological training and limited experience as a preacher, Joel was encouraged by his family and church members to step forward. Just days after his father's death, he delivered his first sermon. The response surprised many people, and before long, Joel accepted the responsibility of becoming Lakewood's senior pastor. What followed was a transformation few could have predicted. Osteen introduced a style of preaching that focused heavily on encouragement, personal growth, and overcoming challenges. Rather than delivering traditional sermons centered on doctrine, he blended biblical messages with motivational themes about confidence, purpose, and achieving one's potential. This approach attracted people who were searching for inspiration, including many who were not regular churchgoers. Using his background in media, Osteen expanded Lakewood Church's influence far beyond Houston. His sermons reached millions through television broadcasts and digital platforms, making him one of the most recognizable religious figures in the world. As attendance continued to grow, the church moved in 2005 into the former Compaq Center, a massive arena once home to the NBA's Houston Rockets. The renovation cost approximately $100 million and gave Lakewood the ability to welcome thousands of attendees. Beyond the pulpit, Osteen became a best-selling author. His 2004 book, Your Best Life Now: 7 Steps to Living at Your Full Potential, became a major success and introduced his message of faith and personal improvement to an even wider audience. But as Osteen's influence grew, so did the questions surrounding his message. Supporters viewed him as a source of hope and encouragement, while critics argued that his teachings reflected the controversial prosperity gospel. And this difference in perspective would eventually bring attention to a larger debate. What should faith teach people about money, success, and the meaning of prosperity? Dave Ramsey versus Joel Osteen, the faith debate. Nobody expected. At first glance, Dave Ramsey and Joel Osteen appear to represent 2 completely different worlds. One built his reputation by confronting people's financial mistakes with tough advice, while the other became famous for delivering messages of encouragement and possibility. Yet beneath their different styles is a shared foundation. Both use faith as a central part of their message and have influenced millions of people searching for a better life. But when it comes to money and success, their philosophies begin to separate. Dave Ramsey's approach is built around discipline, responsibility, and preparation. Drawing from his own financial collapse, he teaches that people should avoid debt, create budgets, save consistently, and make intentional decisions with their money. To Ramsey, financial freedom is achieved through action, sacrifice, and long-term habits, rather than simply hoping circumstances will improve. Joel Osteen's message follows a different path. His sermons often focus on optimism, personal growth, and believing that God has a greater purpose for people's lives. Many of his followers are drawn to his emphasis on overcoming obstacles, maintaining faith during difficult moments, and expecting positive change. This contrast has created a larger conversation within Christian communities. Is prosperity something that comes through faith and a positive mindset, or is it something built through discipline and personal responsibility? Despite their differences, Ramsey and Osteen have shared overlapping audiences over the years. Both have appeared within Christian media spaces, and many people who follow one also recognize the other. Their messages can even seem complementary at times. Osteen offers encouragement and hope, while Ramsey provides practical steps for handling financial challenges. However, critics argue that their views on wealth represent two competing ideas. Some believe Ramsey's financial teachings provide the structure needed to achieve the kind of success that many people hope for. Others argue that Osteen's focus on blessings and abundance offers emotional support for people searching for motivation and faith. This disagreement reflects a much larger debate that has existed within Christianity for years. Questions about wealth, humility, generosity, and the role of money in faith have divided religious communities and sparked discussions among leaders, scholars, and everyday believers. For a long time, Ramsey and Osteen existed within separate lanes, each building their own platforms and influencing their own audiences. But as criticism surrounding prosperity teachings continued to grow, Ramsey's perspective on Osteen's message began attracting more attention. The question became unavoidable. Was Ramsey simply offering financial advice, or was he challenging a much deeper issue about faith, wealth, and influence? And that is where the controversy surrounding Joel Osteen became impossible to ignore. The Live TV moment that sparked a debate about Joel Osteen's ministry. For years, Dave Ramsey has built his reputation on challenging financial habits that he believes can hold people back. He has never been afraid to question popular ideas about money, even when those opinions involve influential figures. Eventually, that same approach brought attention to one of the most recognizable pastors in the world, Joel Osteen. The issue was not simply about wealth, it was about the message behind it. Ramsey has expressed concerns about prosperity-focused teachings, particularly the idea that faith and positive thinking alone can lead to financial success. From his perspective, financial stability requires more than optimism. It requires discipline, wise decisions, and personal responsibility. Ramsey argues that people can create a stronger financial future by changing their habits rather than simply expecting blessings to appear. This is where his views differ from the way many people interpret Osteen's message. Osteen has long preached about hope, possibility, and believing that God has plans for a better future. Millions of followers see his words as a source of encouragement during difficult times. However, critics have argued that this approach can create unrealistic expectations by suggesting that success and wealth are closely connected to faith. Ramsey has also questioned the public image surrounding Osteen's wealth and lifestyle. As one of the most successful pastors in modern Christianity, Osteen has faced years of scrutiny over his multi-million-dollar home, luxury possessions, and financial success. Osteen has defended his wealth by explaining that much of his income comes from book sales, speaking engagements, and personal ventures, rather than a salary from Lakewood Church. Still, Ramsey's argument focuses on the example religious leaders set for their followers. He believes that messages about financial blessings should also include practical lessons about managing money, avoiding debt, and living responsibly. In his view, promoting abundance without discussing the challenges and discipline required to achieve stability can leave people with an incomplete understanding of financial success. The disagreement between the two figures goes beyond personal opinions. It represents a larger debate about the relationship between faith and wealth. Can prosperity be viewed as a reflection of spiritual success? Or should financial responsibility always come before the pursuit of abundance? Although Ramsey's criticism was aimed at ideas rather than personal attacks, his comments added fuel to an ongoing conversation about Osteen's ministry. For years, the pastor had already faced questions about his teachings, lifestyle, and role as one of the most influential religious figures in America. And as more controversies surrounding Joel Osteen continued to unfold, public attention only grew stronger. The controversies that changed how people saw Joel Osteen. Behind Joel Osteen's image as a pastor, known for encouragement and positivity, is a history of controversies that have challenged the way people view his ministry. While millions continue to support his message of hope, critics have repeatedly questioned his teachings, wealth, and response during moments of public scrutiny. One of the biggest debates surrounding Osteen has been his connection to the prosperity gospel. This belief emphasizes that faith, positive thinking, and generosity can lead to personal success and financial blessings. For many followers, this message provides motivation and comfort, especially during difficult seasons of life. However, critics argue that it can oversimplify the struggles people face by suggesting that financial success is closely tied to spiritual faith. Some religious leaders have also accused prosperity-focused ministries of placing too much attention on material success while overlooking traditional Christian teachings about sacrifice, humility, and helping those in need. Because Osteen rarely focuses on topics such as suffering, repentance, or hardship in his sermons, critics have questioned whether his message presents a complete picture of Christianity. His personal wealth has also remained a major source of debate. As one of the most successful pastors in America, Osteen has earned significant income through book sales, speaking engagements, and media appearances. He has stated that he does not receive a salary from Lakewood Church, but his luxurious lifestyle has continued to attract attention. His multi-million-dollar home, expensive possessions, and association with private travel have led some critics to question whether such wealth fits the image of a religious leader focused on humility and service. However, Osteen's supporters argue that financial success does not automatically disqualify someone from ministry. They point out that his income comes from various personal ventures, and that his message has helped millions of people find encouragement and motivation. One of the most damaging moments for Osteen's public reputation came in 2017, when Hurricane Harvey devastated Houston. As thousands of residents searched for shelter after catastrophic flooding, many people questioned why Lakewood Church, one of the largest churches in the country, did not immediately open its doors. The situation quickly became a national debate, with critics accusing Osteen of failing to act during a major crisis. Osteen later explained that the church was working with officials and preparing to provide assistance, eventually opening Lakewood as a shelter and relief location. Still, the delay caused lasting criticism among those who believed the church should have responded sooner. Another controversy emerged in 2021 when a plumber discovered hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash and checks hidden inside a wall at Lakewood Church. The discovery gained widespread attention because it occurred years after the church had reported a theft involving similar funds. Although there was no evidence directly connecting Osteen to wrongdoing, the incident renewed questions about financial transparency within large religious organizations. Despite the criticism, Osteen has remained one of the most influential pastors in the world. His supporters continue to praise his message of optimism and faith, while his critics continue to challenge his approach. But as these controversies spread online and reached millions of viewers, they created a much larger conversation about religious leadership, accountability, and how modern audiences judge those who hold positions of influence. The real impact of the Ramsey-Osteen debate on Christianity today. The conversation surrounding Dave Ramsey and Joel Osteen extends far beyond a disagreement between two well-known figures. Their contrasting views on money, success, and faith have become part of a much larger discussion about the direction of modern Christianity and what people expect from those who hold positions of spiritual influence. When a religious leader with millions of followers faces criticism, the consequences often reach beyond that individual. For many people, controversies involving pastors and ministry leaders raise deeper questions about trust, accountability, and the true purpose of faith. Some begin wondering whether religious platforms are being used primarily to serve communities, or whether fame, wealth, and influence have become too closely connected with spiritual leadership. At the center of this debate is the prosperity gospel, one of the most controversial movements within modern Christianity. Supporters believe that messages about faith, hope, and God's blessings can inspire people to pursue growth, overcome challenges, and believe in a better future. For many followers of Joel Osteen, his words provide encouragement during difficult seasons and remind them to remain optimistic. However, critics argue that prosperity-focused teachings can create unrealistic expectations about the relationship between faith and success. They believe that financial struggles, illness, or hardship cannot simply be explained by a person's level of faith or positivity. Traditional Christian leaders have often emphasized humility, sacrifice, compassion, and service, arguing that these values should remain central, regardless of someone's financial situation. This disagreement has created a significant divide among believers. Some see wealth as something that can reflect God's blessings when handled responsibly, while others believe that focusing too heavily on material success can distract from the deeper purpose of faith. The debate is not only about money, but also about how people interpret spiritual responsibility in the modern world. Social media has played a major role in amplifying these conversations. In previous generations, religious leaders mainly communicated through churches, television programs, and published books. Today, a single statement, sermon, or controversy can spread globally within hours. Supporters can defend their favorite leaders, while critics can quickly share concerns and challenge public figures in ways that were not possible before. This increased visibility has also encouraged many churches and ministries to place greater emphasis on transparency and accountability. Financial practices, leadership decisions, and community involvement are now examined more closely by both believers and the public. In some cases, criticism has pushed religious organizations to reevaluate their priorities and focus more on service rather than reputation. Perhaps the most significant impact of controversies involving figures like Osteen is the way people now approach faith itself. Many believers have become more willing to ask questions, explore different interpretations, and examine the actions of leaders instead of following without hesitation. Ultimately, the Ramsey-Osteen debate represents a much bigger question about the intersection of faith and influence. As religious figures continue to build massive platforms and reach millions worldwide, one challenge remains. When success becomes part of the message, how do people determine whether they are witnessing true spiritual leadership or simply the power of a carefully built empire? Dave Ramsey and Joel Osteen continue to spark conversations about faith, wealth, and influence. But what do you think? Was Ramsey right to challenge Osteen's message, or is there another side to the story? Share your thoughts below and watch our next video.